Waiting is one of the most subtle traps that keeps people locked in poverty, because it feels harmless. It feels innocent, it even feels wise. Many people tell themselves they are being patient, or waiting for clarity, or waiting for the right moment. But deep inside, they know they are hiding behind hesitation. They are postponing the very actions that could change their life. They are delaying what their future self desperately needs them to do today. And slowly, without realizing it, they build a habit of inaction that becomes a prison. Waiting is seductive because it requires nothing from you. To wait, you don't need courage. You don't need discipline. You don't need vision. You simply stand still while time moves forward without you. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. And suddenly, a person wakes up and wonders why life hasn't changed. But life does not change simply because you desire it. Life changes because you decide to move. Destiny responds to action, not intention. Some people say, "I'm waiting for the perfect opportunity." But the perfect opportunity does not exist. Every opportunity comes with uncertainty, with risk, with discomfort. Those who succeed are not the ones who waited for ideal conditions. They are the ones who learned to work with what they had. They made progress while others made excuses. They planted seeds while others waited for better weather. They walked forward while others stood still wondering if they should take the first step. And that first step is the most important one, because it breaks the rhythm of inaction. You don't need to know how the entire journey will unfold. You just need the courage to move when you feel the fear. You need the willingness to begin even when you don't have all the answers. Action creates clarity. Movement builds momentum. The moment you start, the world around you shifts. Opportunities that were invisible suddenly appear. Doors that seemed closed begin to open. People who could help you begin to notice you, not because you are lucky, but because motion attracts miracles. Waiting also becomes dangerous because it disguises itself as preparation. Of course, preparation is important, but many people hide behind endless planning. They tell themselves they are getting ready, but they never actually start. They keep researching, studying, thinking, imagining, yet never doing. Preparation without action becomes procrastination dressed in professional clothing. At some point, you have to stop preparing and start living. Knowledge only transforms your life when you apply it. There is also the fear of failure. Many wait because they are afraid to fall, to be embarrassed, to make mistakes. But failure is not your enemy, inaction is. Failure teaches you, shapes you, strengthens you. Every successful person walked through failure on the way to success. The difference is simple. They moved, they tried, they risked. They understood that a wrong step still gets you further than standing still. You may never feel fully ready. You may never feel fully confident. But readiness is often something you grow into, not something you start with. Confidence is built through action, not before it. The moment you move, you become stronger than your fear. And when you keep moving, your fear becomes smaller than your purpose. If you want to break the habit of waiting, begin with something small. Start where you are with what you have. Don't wait for permission, validation, or certainty. Take that step. Plant that seed. Send that message. Start that project. The smallest action today can shift the entire direction of your future. The truth is simple and powerful. The life you dream of will not begin tomorrow. It begins the moment you stop waiting and start moving. Spending more than you earn is one of the most silent but destructive habits that keeps people trapped in a cycle of struggle. It doesn't always look dangerous at first. In fact, it often begins with small, harmless choices. A little extra here, a small upgrade there, a treat you deserve after a long day. But slowly, these choices become patterns, and those patterns become chains. Before a person realizes it, they are working harder than ever, yet feeling like they are sinking deeper. It isn't because they lack income, but because the flow of money out of their life is greater than the flow coming in. Many people think poverty is caused by a lack of income, but in truth, poverty often comes from a lack of discipline. You can increase your salary, change careers, get bonuses, but if your spending grows faster than your earnings, your life never improves. Some people earn little and save something, others earn much and save nothing. The difference isn't in income, it's in mindset. Spending more than you earn is dangerous because it gives the illusion of progress. The new phone, the branded clothes, the dinners out, the things bought on emotional impulse, they make you feel successful for a moment. But temporary pleasure cannot build a permanent future. Comfort now often becomes regret later. True progress is not measured by what you buy, but by what you build. Many fall into the trap of impressing people who aren't even looking. They buy things they don't need with money they don't have to gain approval from people who don't matter. This habit drains not only your finances, but your confidence and sense of control. When you constantly live beyond your means, you live in a state of quiet anxiety, always chasing, always short, always stressed. And stress becomes the companion of anyone trapped in financial mismanagement. There is also the trap of emotional spending. Stress, boredom, sadness, excitement, everything becomes a reason to spend. People tell themselves, I deserve this, when what they truly deserve is the peace that comes from financial stability. No purchase can fill a void inside. No object can fix an emotional wound. You cannot buy your way out of unhappiness. You only buy distractions. To break this habit, one must understand a simple truth. Wealth is built in the space between what you earn and what you spend. That space, even if small, is your seed for the future. A tiny amount saved consistently can grow into opportunity. Every coin you protect today becomes a weapon against future hardship. This doesn't mean denying yourself joy or living with a harsh, rigid mindset. It simply means being intentional, differentiating between wants and needs, asking yourself before every purchase, is this taking me closer to my future or pulling me further away? Some people think saving a small amount is pointless. They underestimate the power of consistency. Even drops of water can fill a bucket if they fall every day. And then there is investment, not just financial, but educational. Investing in skills, books, courses, personal development. These investments multiply. They open new doors. They increase your earning capacity. The more you grow, the more your future grows with you. The habit of living within your means is not about restriction. It is about empowerment. It gives you control. It gives you freedom. When you manage your money well, you walk through life with confidence instead of fear. You make decisions based on purpose, not pressure. You move from survival to stability and from stability to abundance. If you want to change your financial destiny, start by changing your spending habits. Track where your money goes. Set limits. Delay gratification. Build a savings habit, even if the amount is small. Over time, these small disciplines form a strong foundation, a foundation that can carry the weight of a better future. Remember, money is a tool. If you don't control it, it will control you. And the moment you learn to master it, you take the first step toward a life no longer defined by struggle, but by strength, wisdom, and financial freedom. Blaming is one of the most powerful forces that keeps a person stuck, small, and limited. It feels comforting in the moment because it removes responsibility. It allows you to point the finger outward instead of inward. It gives you a temporary sense of relief. as if the reason for your struggles lies somewhere else, in someone else's decisions, in circumstances beyond your control. But the relief is an illusion, because the moment you blame, you surrender your power. You hand over the steering wheel of your life to something outside yourself. And nothing keeps a person poor, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, more effectively than the habit of blaming. Blaming feels easy because it protects the ego. It's much simpler to say, I couldn't succeed because of them, or I'm stuck because of the economy, or I'm like this because of my past, than it is to admit that maybe, just maybe, we haven't done everything we could. But growth begins with honesty. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot change what you refuse to confront. The moment you accept responsibility, you take back the keys to your own life. There are people who blame their upbringing. I wasn't raised with money, so I can't succeed. They blame their environment. No one around me is successful, so I can't be either. They blame time. I'm too old, or I'm too young. They blame luck. Others are just lucky. They blame circumstances. If life were just a little different, I would do better. But history is filled with examples of individuals who rose above every limitation, every hardship, every disadvantage. What separated them from others was not their environment, but their mindset. They refused to let blame be their identity. Blame keeps you poor because it keeps you passive. When you blame, you wait for life to change instead of changing your life. You wait for someone else to fix what you could fix yourself. You wait for circumstances to improve before you improve your actions. And waiting becomes a habit that steals dreams. Responsibility, on the other hand, activates your potential. When you say, "My life is in my hands," something awakens within you. You begin to see possibilities where before you only saw problems. Taking responsibility doesn't mean everything is your fault. It means everything is your opportunity. You may not have chosen your past, but you can choose your future. You may not control every event, but you control your response. You may not decide the weather, but you decide whether you plant seeds or sit indoors complaining about the rain. Blame blinds you. It makes you focus on what you can't do instead of what you can do. It makes you look outward instead of inward. But responsibility opens your eyes. It makes you see solutions. It makes you see strengths. It makes you realize that you are capable of far more than you have allowed yourself to believe. When you stop blaming, you free yourself from the prison of excuses that kept you small. It's true that life can be unfair. People can disappoint you, opportunities can slip away, unexpected hardships can hit you when you least expect them. But the question is not whether life is fair. The question is whether you will rise anyway. The strongest people are not the ones who had perfect conditions. They are the ones who decided not to let imperfection define them. When you rise above blame, you begin to grow. When you grow, you begin to change. And when you change, your life begins to transform from the inside out. This transformation doesn't happen in one day. It happens in small decisions, choosing responsibility over excuses, choosing growth over comfort, choosing courage over fear. Each decision becomes a brick in the foundation of a better future. If you truly want to break free from the habit that keeps so many people poor, start by reclaiming your power. Say to yourself, my life is my responsibility. My future is my responsibility. My success or failure is my responsibility. The moment these words become your truth, you will no longer live as a victim of circumstances, but as the creator of your own destiny. And from that moment on, nothing, absolutely nothing, can keep you poor, because you have stepped into the mindset of someone who cannot be held back. Here is an expanded ***, fourth keynote ***, written in the same powerful style as the previous three, flowing as if it naturally belongs to the speech without adding any headings and expanded to approximately 600 words. There is another habit that keeps countless people trapped in a life far smaller than the one they were meant to live, the habit of surrounding themselves with the wrong people. Many do not realize how deeply their environment shapes their destiny. The people you listen to, the people you spend time with, the people whose voices you allow into your heart, they build or break your future. You cannot rise while staying connected to those who hold you down. You cannot climb while carrying those who refuse to take even a single step. And you cannot grow when you are surrounded by people who mock growth. Some individuals live in circles that normalize mediocrity. Their friends laugh at ambition, their peers criticize dreams, their families discourage risk and call it safety. Their environment encourages them to stay where they are, not because others are evil, but because those around them have settled. And when you walk among people who have given up on their own potential, they will try to convince you to give up on yours as well. The habit of staying connected to the wrong voices keeps a person poor in confidence, poor in courage, poor in vision, and eventually poor in finances. The conversations they hear are filled with doubt, fear, limitations, complaints, gossip, and negativity. These conversations slowly enter the mind, then the heart, then the decisions. Before long, a person who once had dreams begins to shrink their thinking to match the people around them. They begin to believe that aiming high is unrealistic and wanting more is too much. They begin to sabotage their progress because they fear outgrowing the very people who claim to care about them. Environment is powerful because it is silent. You rarely notice the impact day by day, but over time the influence becomes visible. You start thinking like the people you spend time with. You begin adopting their habits, their beliefs, their expectations. If you walk with complainers, you will complain. If you walk with doubters, you will doubt. If you walk with people who lack discipline, you will slowly relax your own. But if you walk with those who strive, you will strive harder. If you walk with those who grow, you will grow faster. If you walk with those who speak faith, vision, and possibility, then your mind will open, your heart will strengthen, and your life will rise. Breaking this habit doesn't mean abandoning everyone you know. It means being intentional about who has influence over your spirit. Not every voice deserves access to your mind. Not every friend deserves access to your future. You must decide who feeds your strength and who feeds your weakness. Who pulls you forward and who pulls you backward. Who celebrates your victories and who secretly resents them. Sometimes the reason a person remains poor is not because they lack ability, but because they are surrounded by people who suffocate their destiny. Growth demands separation, not separation out of arrogance, but separation out of necessity. You cannot become who you are meant to be while clinging to who you used to be, and the people connected to the old version of you may not support the new version you are becoming. Surround yourself with people who talk about purpose, not problems, people who encourage discipline, not distractions. People who inspire vision, not fear. People who challenge you to rise higher, not stay comfortable. You need voices that make your spirit stronger, your dreams bigger, and your actions bolder. When you change your environment, you change your energy. When you change your circle, you change your thinking. And when your thinking changes, your entire life begins to shift. The right people elevate you. The wrong people limit you. The choice of who you walk with is one of the most important decisions you will ever make. And it is a decision that can either keep you poor forever or lift you into a future far greater than anything you have ever imagined. There is yet another habit that keeps a person locked in lifelong limitation, the habit of ignoring growth. Not because they are incapable of growing, but because they have convinced themselves that growth is optional, unnecessary, or something they will figure out later. Many people want a better life, but they do not want to become a better version of themselves. They want progress without change, success without learning, elevation without transformation. But life does not work that way. Your outer world can never rise higher than your inner world. If you remain the same, your results will remain the same. Ignoring growth keeps a person poor because the world is constantly changing, evolving, advancing. New opportunities emerge every day, but they are only visible to those who have trained their minds to see them. Growth sharpens your thinking. Growth expands your awareness. Growth upgrades your vision. When you stop learning, you stop seeing. And when you stop seeing, you stop rising. Some people say, "I don't have time to learn." But they spend hours scrolling, watching, gossiping, and consuming entertainment that adds nothing to their future. They complain about lack of opportunity while ignoring the one thing that creates opportunity: personal development. Others say, "I already know enough." But the moment you believe you know enough is the moment you begin falling behind. What worked years ago may not work today. What you understood yesterday may not be enough for tomorrow. The world rewards those who evolve. The habit of ignoring growth also shows up in the refusal to challenge oneself. Many settle into routines that feel safe but slowly destroy ambition. They repeat the same actions, think the same thoughts, and surround themselves with the same patterns every day. Comfort becomes their cage. They fear the discomfort of learning something new, the embarrassment of making mistakes, the vulnerability of starting at the bottom. But every master began as a beginner. Every expert was once unskilled. Every confident person was once uncertain. Growth requires humility, the humility to learn, to fail, to try again, to be stretched. There are people who pray for a better life, yet reject the process that would equip them for that life. They want the reward without the refining. They want the blessing without becoming the person who can handle that blessing. And because they refuse to grow, they remain stuck at the same level year after year. Opportunities pass by, not because they are unlucky, but because they are unprepared. Growth is not simply about reading books or listening to lectures. It is about expanding your thinking, stretching your discipline, strengthening your character. It is about learning new skills, improving old skills, and breaking the mental patterns that kept you small. It is about becoming wiser, sharper, more capable, more aware. When you grow, you upgrade your entire life. You begin making decisions from a place of strength rather than fear. You begin seeing possibilities instead of limitations. You begin acting with confidence instead of hesitation. And growth has a powerful compound effect. What you learn today may open a door next month. A skill you build this year may change your income for the next decade. A breakthrough in your thinking may alter the entire direction of your life. Small investments in yourself create massive returns over time, but when you ignore growth, the opposite happens. Small neglects accumulate into big regrets. Days of not learning become months of stagnation. Months of stagnation become years of wasted potential. To break this habit, commit to daily improvement, even if the steps are small. Read, listen, observe, practice. Learn from mentors. Seek feedback. Challenge yourself. Replace entertainment with education. Stop chasing distractions and start pursuing development. Every day you grow, you take one step closer to the life you desire. The truth is simple. Your future is shaped by the person you become. If you ignore growth, you limit your destiny. But if you embrace growth, you unlock doors that once seemed impossible. Growth is not an option. It is the path to strength, prosperity, and a life far greater than the one you are leaving behind. There is another habit, subtle yet destructive, that keeps people trapped in cycles of frustration and lack, the habit of quitting too soon. Many individuals begin with passion, excitement, and big dreams, but they do not stay long enough to see those dreams turn into reality. They start a journey, but the moment they face discomfort, delay, or difficulty, they withdraw. They plant seeds but do not water them long enough to see a harvest. They step into opportunities but step back the moment challenges appear. And because they quit early, they never experience the breakthroughs that were already on their way. Quitting is dangerous because it often disguises itself as being practical, or changing plans, or protecting yourself from failure. But beneath those excuses lies a deeper truth. The habit of quitting is rooted in fear, fear of discomfort, fear of uncertainty, fear that the effort will not pay off, fear that others are judging, fear that progress is too slow. And these fears whisper convincing lies into the mind. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe you won't succeed. Maybe it's too hard. When you listen to these whispers, quitting feels justified, but that justification steals your future. Many people do not realize how close they were to success at the very moment they gave up. Breakthrough often comes after the hardest stretch. The last mile is always the most exhausting. Right before the dawn, the night is always the darkest. But because people cannot see how close they are, they surrender their efforts. They step away from something that was already beginning to shift in their favor. And later, they wonder why nothing ever changes. It's not that their dreams were impossible. It's that they didn't endure long enough to witness the miracle. Quitting creates a cycle. Each time you quit, you weaken your confidence. You teach your mind that giving up is an option. You train yourself to retreat when things get uncomfortable. It becomes a pattern that stretches into every area of life, relationships, responsibilities, goals, finances, personal growth. When quitting becomes a habit, stability becomes impossible, and success becomes a distant fantasy. But staying committed also creates a cycle, a powerful one. When you endure, even through difficulty, you strengthen your resilience. You teach your mind that you can push through pain, uncertainty, and doubt. You build inner toughness. You develop a mindset that refuses to surrender. And when you persist long enough, breakthroughs begin to appear. Skills develop, opportunities unfold, momentum builds, life begins to align itself with your consistency. Many quit because they expect quick results. They want success without struggle, growth without discomfort, progress without patience. But anything valuable requires time. A seed does not grow into a tree overnight. A dream does not become reality in a week. The process shapes you, prepares you, and strengthens you for the blessing ahead. If you skip the process, you miss the promise. To break the habit of quitting, you must shift your focus from how long it takes to how committed you are. Remind yourself why you started. Remind yourself who you want to become. Remind yourself that temporary pain is better than permanent regret. When challenges come, and they will face them with the mindset of a finisher, not a quitter, tell yourself, I may move slowly, but I will not stop. Consistency is not about perfection. It is about showing up again and again, even on days when motivation is low. It is about building momentum through small, repeated actions. Over time, these small actions create extraordinary results. Your dreams are not unreachable. Your goals are not unrealistic. Your future is not out of your hands. You simply must stop quitting on the person you are becoming. Endure the discomfort, push through the doubt, stay the course even when the road feels long. The moment you decide that quitting is no longer an option, your destiny begins to open, and the life you have been waiting for begins to move toward you. There is another habit deeply woven into the lives of many people who struggle yet rarely acknowledged, the habit of speaking negativity over their own life. This habit is subtle, almost invisible at first, but it shapes a person's future more powerfully than they realize. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. Every sentence you speak about yourself plants something in the soil of your future. And those who constantly speak lack, fear, failure, and limitation unknowingly build a life that mirrors the very words they release. Some people wake up every day declaring defeat before the day even begins. They say things like, "Nothing ever works out for me. I'm unlucky. I'll never succeed. People like me don't make it. Life is just too hard. Opportunities never come my way." They speak their pain, their doubts, their insecurities, and these words settle deep into their subconscious mind. Over time, the subconscious begins to believe and behave according to those statements. It starts shaping decisions, attitudes, and actions that align with the negative declarations. The result is predictable. The more they speak defeat, the more defeat becomes their reality. Negativity becomes a habit because it feels easier than hope. It feels safer than expectation. If you believe nothing good will happen, then at least you won't be disappointed. That's what the mind convinces you. But what people don't realize is that protecting themselves with negative thinking only guarantees one thing: a life smaller than the one they were created for. A life with no risk, no growth, no faith, no boldness. A life where you never rise because you never spoke anything that called you higher. Negative words weaken the spirit. They drain energy, ambition, and courage. They shut the door to creativity and problem solving. They make you resist opportunities because you have already convinced yourself that you are unworthy or incapable. Such individuals may have talent, ability, and potential, but they bury it beneath layers of self-inflicted doubt. Worse, negativity influences how others see you. When you constantly speak badly about yourself, people begin to believe you. They offer fewer opportunities, less responsibility, and little trust, because your own words portray you as someone who cannot handle more. You talk yourself out of growth, but the biggest damage happens internally. You sabotage your own progress. You delay your own breakthroughs. You create limits where none originally existed. Negativity becomes a cage you build with your own hands, then lock yourself inside. On the other hand, speaking life, strength, and possibility begins to shift everything. When you declare, "I can learn this, I will improve, I deserve better, my future is worth fighting for, good things are coming, I am capable of rising," something awakens inside you. Your energy changes, your posture changes, your decisions change. You begin taking actions that match the future you spoke about. Your mind starts searching for solutions instead of dwelling on problems. Your confidence grows because your words feed your spirit instead of starving it. Speaking positively doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to let reality define what is possible. It means understanding that your words can redirect your path. The greatest transformations often begin with simple declarations. A new mindset begins with a new sentence. A new future begins with a new belief spoken aloud. To break the habit of negative speech, you must become aware of what comes out of your mouth. Listen to yourself. Catch the phrases that diminish you, limit you, or weaken you. Replace them immediately with words of strength. Even if you don't fully believe them at first, speak them anyway. Your heart will eventually catch up to your voice. Choose words that lift, not words that crush. Words that build, not words that break. Words that align with who you want to become, not who life has temporarily made you feel like. When you change your language, you change your mindset. When you change your mindset, you change your actions. And when your actions change, your entire life begins to rise. Never underestimate the power of your own voice. It can imprison you, or it can free you. The choice is yours, and it begins with the words you choose to speak today. There is yet another habit that quietly drains a person's potential and keeps them stuck in a life far smaller than what they could achieve: the habit of procrastination. It doesn't show up loudly like fear or anger. It doesn't strike suddenly like a crisis. Instead, it whispers gently, calmly, persuasively, "I'll do it later." And because that whisper feels harmless, many people follow it. They delay the work, delay the decision, delay the responsibility, delay the change until later becomes never, and opportunities slip through their fingers like sand. Procrastination is the thief of time, but time is the foundation of every dream. When you waste time, you are not just delaying tasks, you are delaying your life. Every moment you postpone action is a moment you can never retrieve. And most people don't realize how much of their future they sacrifice by constantly pushing things to tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes next month, and soon a year has passed with nothing changed. They look back confused, wondering why they are still in the same place, not realizing procrastination kept them chained. The danger of procrastination is that it gives the illusion of control. "I'm not refusing to do it, I'm just doing it later," the mind says. But what feels like control is actually surrender. It is surrender to comfort, to laziness, to distraction. It is surrender to the fear of starting, the fear of failing, the fear of not being perfect. Every time you procrastinate, you reinforce the belief that you are not ready, not capable, not strong enough. And the longer you postpone action, the heavier the task feels. What could have been done in an hour becomes a burden. What could have been started in a day becomes a mountain. Procrastination also steals your confidence. Each delay becomes a disappointment. Each disappointment becomes guilt, and guilt becomes self-doubt. You start questioning your ability to finish anything. You begin labeling yourself as lazy or undisciplined. That negative identity becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead of breaking the habit, you sink deeper into it. But consider this: every great achievement in life began with one small step taken at the right time. Not a perfect step, not a confident step, simply a step. Procrastination blocks that beginning. It traps your dreams in the realm of intentions instead of allowing them to become reality. You may have brilliant ideas, powerful goals, and strong desires, but if you always wait for the right moment, those ideas remain buried inside you. Life does not reward intention, it rewards execution. The habit of procrastination often hides behind reasons that sound intelligent. "I'm waiting for more information. I'm not sure it's the right day. I need more energy. I'll start when I feel motivated." But motivation is not the cause of action. Action is the cause of motivation. When you begin, motivation grows. When you wait, motivation dies. To break procrastination, you must shrink your tasks. Make them small enough to begin now. Tell yourself, "I'll work for 5 minutes." Most of the time, once you begin, 5 minutes becomes 20, then an hour. Action creates momentum. You must also replace the mindset of perfection with the mindset of progress. You're not required to do everything perfectly. You simply need to move. Imperfect action will take you further than perfect plans that never leave your mind. And most importantly, attach your actions to your identity. Tell yourself, I am someone who finishes. I am someone who starts now. I am someone who values my future more than my comfort. When your identity changes, your habits follow. Every time you choose to start now instead of later, you reclaim your power. You take responsibility for your future. You open doors that procrastination kept shut. You build a life where progress becomes natural and success becomes inevitable. The truth is simple. Procrastination is the silent enemy of destiny. But the moment you decide to act, even in small ways, you begin to rise above the limitations that once held you. Your life starts moving forward again. And with consistent action, even the smallest steps can lead you to a future greater than anything you imagined. There is another habit, often overlooked but incredibly destructive, that quietly keeps people trapped in cycles of limitation, the habit of refusing to take responsibility for their choices. Many people live as if life happens asterisk to asterisk them, as if they are merely passengers on a journey controlled by others, by circumstances, by luck, or by fate. They blame their failures on their upbringing, the economy, their environment, or even other people. They look outward for solutions, hoping someone or something will fix what they feel powerless to change. But the moment you hand over your power to external forces, you relinquish control over your life, and without control, true growth, success, and freedom remain out of reach. Refusing responsibility often begins subtly. It starts with small excuses. I didn't have time, I wasn't ready, someone else messed it up, or it's not my fault. These statements feel harmless, even logical. They shield the ego from criticism and the heart from pain. But over time, these small excuses accumulate. They form a mindset where the individual no longer believes they can influence outcomes. And when the mind believes it has no influence, actions diminish. Decisions become reactive rather than intentional. Progress slows and dreams drift further away. People who refuse responsibility often fall into the trap of victimhood. They believe that life's hardships are unfair and that others are always in a better position to succeed. They become preoccupied with what others have or what others have done, instead of focusing on what they themselves can do. This mindset erodes confidence and diminishes motivation. The very person who can create change becomes trapped in the illusion that change is impossible. The danger of this habit is that it blinds people to their own power. Every moment spent blaming someone or something is a moment wasted, a moment in which you could have acted, learned, adapted, or grown. Life presents opportunities every day, but these opportunities favor those who see themselves as active participants rather than passive spectators. Responsibility gives you eyes to see, hands to act, and courage to persevere. Without it, even talent, intelligence, and resources can be wasted. Refusing responsibility also undermines relationships, work, and reputation. People instinctively trust those who own their actions. They rely on those who step up when challenges arise, but those who habitually blame others or refuse accountability are seen as unreliable. Doors close to them, opportunities bypass them, and progress slows. Responsibility builds trust, credibility, and influence, all of which are essential for a life of abundance. To break this habit, one must begin with radical honesty. Accept that your life is the sum of your decisions, your actions, and your reactions. Own your mistakes without excuses. Own your successes without arrogance. Understand that while circumstances influence life, they do not control it. True freedom comes when you embrace the truth that your choices shape your destiny. Taking responsibility is not easy. It requires courage, it requires humility, it requires a willingness to face uncomfortable truths about yourself. You may have failed, stumbled, or made poor choices, but acknowledging them is the first step toward change. Responsibility transforms regret into learning, mistakes into growth, and setbacks into stepping stones. Responsibility also empowers action. When you embrace it, you stop waiting for others to solve your problems. You stop blaming the world for your lack. You begin taking deliberate steps to create the life you desire. Each decision becomes purposeful. Each effort becomes meaningful. Each day becomes an opportunity to move closer to your potential. The truth is simple. Life is a mirror. What you see reflected back is the result of what you choose to take responsibility for. The moment you stop blaming, stop waiting for others, and fully own your choices, you reclaim your power. You rise above limitation. You step into freedom. You begin to create a life built on action, not excuses, and on possibility, not surrender. Your future is not determined by circumstance, luck, or what others do. It is determined by the person who refuses to hand over control, the person who stands up, takes ownership, and decides to rise no matter what. Responsibility is not a burden. It is the key to breaking every chain that has ever kept you from the life you were meant to live.